Hi everyone, welcome to Erins Law and the Second Step Child Protection webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. We're looking forward to sharing policy updates around child abuse prevention and our own child protection unit with you. My name is Lisa Wright and I'm the Education Account Manager at Committee for Children. Joining me today is Jordan Posmentier, Senior Manager of Policy and Advocacy, also at Committee for Children.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone.
Here's the roadmap for today. A quick overview of who Committee for Children is, what is Erins Law, trends across the states, and then we'll dive into the Child Protection Unit and resources available for families, and of course, questions at the end. So we are a nonprofit organization based in Seattle, Washington, and our mission is to foster the safety and well-being of children through social emotional learning and development.
We're also involved in policy and advocacy at both state and federal levels, helping pass policies and legislation to improve the lives of children. If you have advocacy efforts going on in your state, let us know. We'd love to support that kind of work. And if there's work to be done in your state to keep improving in this area, let us know that too. And we have resources and interests that can help connect you and advance that. And really, if you'd like to just know about relevant state legislation that might affect this area of your work, we track that regularly. Connect with me. We'll keep you updated. Just shoot me an email or you can sign up on the advocacy pages of our website.
So our programs are based on rigorous research and widely adopted and effective. They're implemented in all 50 states, 70 countries worldwide, impacting more than 14 million children each year. And this year we're celebrating our 40th year. Many of you know us from our Second Step program, which includes the Social Emotional Learning, SEL, a bullying prevention unit, and a child protection unit, which we'll be going over later today. We also have Mind Yeti, which helps kids and their adults fit mindfulness into their days. So we want to begin with the why. Why do we care about child protection, and why is it important to have policies around child abuse prevention in schools? Why is the school staff an integral part of keeping children safe and protected? Although research shows that parents play the biggest role in how well their child is protected from abuse and neglect, children are not with their parents all the time. Children spend a large amount of time outside the home with an average of 6 to 7 hours a day in school. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 20 boys report experiencing childhood sexual abuse before the age of 18. And about 90% of reported cases of sexually abused children know the person abusing them, making them less likely to speak up. And according to the data found on child victim demographics, the youngest children are the most vulnerable to maltreatment, such as child sexual abuse. And 28.5% of victims were younger than 3 years old. As you can see, this is a significant issue, and states are responsible for child protection. With that being said, now Jordan, Senior Manager of Policy and Advocacy, will talk about Erins Law and the trends across the states.
So before we talk about what is Erins Law, it's going to be really helpful to understand who is Erin. She is a survivor of sexual assault and a champion for child protection. And it helps to bring context and the impetus behind why these laws are passing across the country when you learn a little bit more about her story. This might be difficult for some of you to hear. Erin was sexually abused and raped from ages 6 to 8 by an adult neighbor. Her abuser threatened her to keep quiet, and she did, and after her parents moved, while Erin's abuse ended, she was then again targeted by an older teenage cousin who lived down the street from her. He sexually abused her from 11 to 13 years old, and again, the abuser threatened her to keep quiet, and again she did, but she kept notes in her diary, and eventually she used those notes to speak out. She wrote a book and began to speak publicly about this rather taboo subject. Erin began her efforts to protect children nationwide as far back as 2008, and since then she's been on a mission to persuade all 50 states to pass Erins Law. She had her first success in Illinois in 2013, and in the 5 years beyond that, she passed laws or helped pass laws in upwards of 20 to 30 states. Erins Law or similar laws have been introduced across the country, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go. But what is Erins Law? It is a model law and requires all public schools in each state to implement a prevention-oriented child sexual abuse program, which teaches students in pre-K through 12 about age-appropriate techniques to recognize signs of abuse and how to tell a trusted adult. It teaches school personnel to learn about child abuse and works with the community, specifically parents and guardians, who learn about the warning signs. Plus, they learn about the needed assistance, referral, and resource information to support sexually abused children and their families. Now, that's a model law, and it's not called Erins Law in all jurisdictions. Some states were enacted their law in honor of different child victims. For example, Brooke Bennett in Vermont, Jeffrey Bell in Pennsylvania, or they also are named after adult survivors or advocates such as Jenna's Law in Texas, Jolene's Law in South Dakota, Tara's Law in Montana, Bree's Law in Alaska. A plurality of the states that have passed these laws go with the name Erins Law, and casually it's a simple way to refer to these kinds of laws. It's what the National Conference of State Legislatures does. Some media outlets like Education Week do this too. It's just easier than saying universal and holistic mandatory child sexual abuse prevention training. But out of respect for the victims and or the survivors in your states, I'd encourage you, of course, to use your own state's proper name of its law. So what's Erins Law as adopted? Well, this is slightly different. Model laws seldom are adopted verbatim. Each state tends to take the model to start with, and then it ends up with something quite different. So just as your state's law in this area might have its own unique name, so too might it be very different from other Erins Law statutes in other states. There's a lot of variability here. So when looking at how your state compares to other states that have implemented the law, you have to look at the variance. So here's where we stand so far across the country in terms of the variance of adopting something akin to Erins model law. 20 states have now mandated this kind of education in schools. 9 states allow it, which means they don't mandate it, but they encourage it, or they provide funding to support, they provide resources for training. 21 states still don't have these kinds of laws. The dark gray says they've tried, the light gray says they haven't, and some states can't have these laws because of the way they're structured, in a way that prevents a state from imposing a mandate of this kind on their educational systems. So I'll highlight just a few examples. I can't do all of them, sorry about that. But there are 4 states that recently adopted a version of Erins Law: Washington State, Georgia, Virginia, and Wyoming. And I'm going to encourage you, as you follow along here, to think about this. Think about how these similar laws differ from one another, and why are they different? So let's start with Washington State. By the way, that's where we're coming from here in Seattle. Washington, this past March, passed its version of Erins Law, House Bill 1539. And what it does is it actually imposes a mandate on the state level government to collect and disseminate school districts information about child sexual abuse prevention curricula, causes the state to review these curricula. It goes through a very strong feedback loop with a lot of stakeholders to figure out how then to establish a coordinated primary prevention program with a lot of public comment. So the takeaway from Washington State is it's not a mandate, but it is expansive. It covers K through 12. How about Wyoming? Governor Meade signed the Erins Law version of Wyoming's bill in March 16, 2018, and this is also not a mandate. In fact, it enables a proscription. Kids need parental permission before getting this kind of education in the classroom. This can be particularly challenging if an abuser resides within the household, but it's similar to at least 8 other states, which provide an opt-out for parents to exclude their children from participating in any education on this topic. So it authorizes and allows schools to get active in this area. And to that extent, it does advance the space in this part of the law. What about Virginia? So Governor Northam, again in March of this year, signed an Erins Law kind of bill. This one is also not a mandate. It's also limited to high school, which makes me wonder whether we should even include it in Erins Law analysis. But the takeaway here is that the issues in high school speak to dating violence, issues around consent, and it does actually mandate at the high school level to incorporate into what they call the family life education curricula information about prevention. All right, last but not least, in May of this year, Governor Deal in Georgia signed Senate Bill 401. This one, again, it's got a variation. Think about this. It focuses on K through 9. It puts child protection instruction in their sex ed curriculum. There are a lot of questions about where best to house education around child protection, and there's a lot of variance across the state. Sometimes they put it in family life curricula, sometimes they put it in sex ed, sometimes they put it in straight up safety training. And again, this is not a mandate, but you see the requirement for teacher in-service training for Georgia, which is a great way to support teachers as you shift the law in this way. I'll also mention that in 4 other states, Alaska, Colorado, New Mexico, West Virginia, they go even further in teacher prep on this subject area. They require or encourage teachers seeking licensure to be provided with education about child sexual abuse prevention. And in my estimate, that's a really strong step in the right direction. So what are the takeaways? Remember, we were looking for what are the similarities and differences and why. Well, in a nutshell, we see a variance in grade spans, and you'll want to look to your state to figure out, okay, what are the grade spans being addressed in your version of Erins Law? K through 9 in Georgia, K through 12 in Washington State. And where is Erins Law housed? Where is child sexual abuse prevention curricula going to live in your schools and systems? It's family life education in Virginia. It's sex ed in Georgia. And there are different authority levels. Like in Georgia, it is a mandate, but in Wyoming, it's enabled, but only with parental permission. So the takeaway here is it's hard to predict what Erins Law means in your state. And while your state has likely not adopted the model law, you're likely within your state's framework if you choose to implement per that model. Implementing with respect to the model is a best practice in child protection because it is universal and holistic. So our recommendation, Committee for Children's recommendation to you is implement with respect to the model law while ensuring you align with the nuance in your state. So things like parental permissions, grade spans, whether you teach these skills in sex ed or life skills or safety or something altogether different, that's something you need to check out first. Now, Committee for Children's curriculum is one of several available out there. It is heavily informed by research and development. It aligns with Erins Law, the model law, and therefore it respects best practice. But I'm going to hand it over to Lisa now to walk you through the nuts and bolts of that curriculum.
Thank you, Jordan, for sharing that information. That was very helpful and informative. Now let's talk about the Child Protection Unit and the importance of the educator's role. Many of you know about our Child Protection Unit from our Second Step program. For those of you who are not familiar with Committee for Children, our history, we actually first began our work in studying the effects of child sexual abuse and developed a program called Talking About Touching. We took the content and strategies that showed significant gains in children's personal safety skills from that program and incorporated those into the Child Protection Unit. Today, the Child Protection Unit is our abuse prevention program, and it is available as part of the Second Step suite. The Child Protection Unit is a personal safety curriculum for ages early learning through grade 5. It's based on current research. There is stringent training dedicated to district administrators and school staff, as well as age-appropriate student lessons. I'd like to play a video for you that is useful for helping school staff understand the incidence of child abuse and ways to help kids.
Hi, moms. Hi, dads, and everyone who cares about children. We've got some news about our kids, and it's not pretty. 1 out of 4 girls and 1 out of 20 boys will be sexually abused by the time they're 18. We're talking about our kids, our daughters, sons, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and their friends. And there's more. If our kids get abused sexually, it's usually by someone we know, like a neighbor, stepfather, brother, cousin, clergy, or coach. How does it happen? Abusers target kids, and parents too. They work to gain everyone's trust and use it to their own advantage. Before kids know it, these abusers have crossed the line. Shh, they say. Don't tell. This is our secret. It's hard for some kids to know what's happening, and it's hard to tell on someone they know. So kids often don't say anything. If we don't find out, and if these abused kids don't get help, their lives turn upside down. They may get depressed, drop out of school, and start to abuse alcohol or drugs. Wait a minute. Is this what we want for our children? No. So what exactly can we do? Talk to our kids in ways they'll understand, so they'll tell us if someone makes them uncomfortable and if something ever happens. And what do we say to them? We start when they're young. We explain what their private parts are called and how no one can touch them. We tell kids to tell us if someone tries. No secrets. And as they grow, we make sure they know they can talk to us, so we can help them recognize if someone crosses the line. We talk at home and at school and with everyone who cares about kids, until talking together about preventing sexual abuse isn't a big deal. It becomes as natural as wear a helmet. It's just how we talk to keep kids safe. Guess what happens next? Our children can grow up to be the best they can be. We can all help protect our kids together if we talk to them and if we listen.
Thank you for watching that. Again, the school staff play an integral role in protecting children from abuse and neglect. It's because you see the children every day. You know the children well, so you can spot changes in their behaviors from day to day. You may see indicators of maltreatment, and you're often viewed as trusted adults and more likely to receive disclosures, especially if the abuser is someone at home. There are 4 components of Erins Law that schools are required to address in the child protection program. Starting at the top left, policies and procedures, staff training, student lessons, and family education. The second set of child protection addresses all 4 components. Even if your state has not adopted Erins Law, these components are important in creating a safe school environment. And we'll share our child protection unit alignment chart with the Erins Law at the end of the webinar. So before we teach safety skills to students, we must first train the adult staff. We've designed a robust training that will prepare staff beyond mandated reporting. There are 3 training modules included in the child protection unit. They are about 60 to 90 minutes each. I'll dive a little deeper into the training next, but here's a quick overview. Module 1 is for administrators and program directors to audit your current student safety policies and create policies to help reduce risk in your school. Module 2 is for all staff who interact with children. So principals, paraeducators, volunteers, cafeteria staff, anyone who interacts with children in your school building. They're trained on how to recognize possible indicators of abuse and neglect, how to respond if a child discloses abuse, and how do you report disclosures. The last module is for teachers and counselors who will be teaching the student lessons. They'll be trained on how to engage families and overcome discomfort with the topic of sexual abuse. And Jordan, I wanted to ask you, with your expertise and background, what makes the Child Protection Unit special?
Yeah, well, before I became an attorney, I was a teacher. And when I was getting my certification, I spent, I think, an hour on training of this nature, and it was wholly insufficient. I felt totally underprepared, and it was really difficult when I would see a kid in my class who came in with signs of abuse of any kind. This training was really thorough and sort of held my hand through a number of different scenarios that, in retrospect, boy, that really would have helped, because I tell you, when you get into the specifics of the situation, you really find yourself at a loss, and to be surprised by that is really difficult for a teacher. So I really feel like and I went through our curriculum provides a very different kind of hand-holding, which I think is really important in this area of work.
Thank you. So I want to play a testimonial video from an abuse survivor on why the school staff training is important and how you respond and the impact it has.
When I was young, the abuse impacted me in the ways that I was not able to sleep at night. I had nightmares, flashbacks. I was unable to look at anyone in the eye. I was unable to trust anyone. I acted out a lot, having tantrums and a very bad temper. I just didn't want to be around anyone or just around in general. I didn't want to be here. And I would not show up to class. I wouldn't do my homework, which was funny because when they would talk to me one-on-one, I know they could see how smart I was. You just see these certain kids that stand out, these certain kids that act out, and many teachers brush it off as they're just bad behavioral students, they're bad kids, and it's not basically that. It's because there's something behind the behavior. It's never us kids decide to be bad for no reason. Don't brush it off as bad behavior. Actually find out what's going on. Maybe something at home, or just maybe something that they're hiding and don't want to talk about. But I think if they try and build a relationship and build some trust, kids will be open. I acted out. It was like a cry for help. It wasn't hidden. It was out there, and I was just waiting for someone to realize I was hurting.
Thank you for watching that, everyone. Let's dive into the first module for the school leaders. So Module 1 helps school leaders assess their current child protection policies and procedures, and then we help you to develop a child protection strategy in line with current research and best practices. You will also learn about screening and hiring procedures to avoid educator misconduct at school. What do you do when there is misconduct from an educator? And different ways to engage the family members. Module 2 of the online training is for all school staff. Again, anyone who interacts with children. That includes your paraeducators, volunteers, cafeteria staff. And it uses what we call the 3 R's. On the screen here, recognize, respond, and report. So recognize, the first R. We train staff on how to recognize common indicators of child abuse and neglect, how to recognize violations of child protection policies, and how to respond to student behaviors in a supportive way, how to respond appropriately to a child who discloses abuse or neglect, and then how do you report child abuse and neglect and violations of child protection policies according to the school's procedures. One of the benefits of this training is that all staff learn the same common language. You understand the same indicators and definitions across grade levels and throughout the school building or district. Module 2 training also goes through 6 realistic scenarios. The stories in each scenario explore the topics of physical and sexual abuse, neglect, and educator misconduct. Staff are prompted to answer questions and test their knowledge throughout the training to keep it engaging and reinforce their learning. The last module of the training is for staff who are teaching the student lessons. In this module, staff will learn ways to overcome any discomfort with teaching this content, how to create a safe and supportive learning environment, child protection lesson content and the format, how to reinforce lesson skills throughout the week, not just in the classroom, and how to engage families and have those conversations at home. After all the staff completes the training, they are now prepared to teach the student lesson. Here are the lesson topics. In front of you, the lessons are developmentally appropriate based on the age group. Lessons are scripted and easy to follow, teaching kids safety skills through clear rules and guidelines. Let's go over the topics real quick, starting at the top left, ways to stay safe, the always ask first rule, safe and unsafe touches, the touching rule, practicing staying safe, reviewing safety skills. So for the early learning group, the lessons are daily activities, 5 to 7 minutes each day. For K through 5 lessons, they're meant to be taught once per week, about 20 to 35 minutes, depending on the grade level. The lessons build on the foundation of assertiveness, empathy, emotion management, and problem-solving skills taught in the core second step lessons by teaching students to recognize and report unsafe or abusive situations. We want to play a video for you. It's a music video that comes directly from the Child Protection Unit. It's a fun video to teach kids and keep it engaging for them. All right, give me a second so I can share that with you.
3 ways to stay safe. Recognize, refuse, report. 3 big R's before
right. Thanks for watching that. Here's an example of the never, never rules that are incorporated into the lessons. Things like never ride in a car without a seatbelt, never ride a bike without a helmet. This helps students see personal safety all as part of the same thing. Next, I have a video that shows the lessons in action in the classroom. I find a lot of teachers and counselors and principals find it very helpful to see what it looks like in the classroom. There are classroom samples from early learning, kindergarten, and grade 3.
Remember that private body parts are the parts that are covered up by your bathing suit, okay? Is this a private body part? No. Is this a private body part? Is this a private body part? No. How about this? Is this a private body part? Is this a private body part? No. How about, is this a private body part? Yeah. And how about for girls? Just for girls. Is this a private body part? Yeah.
Hello, puppy. Why are you so excited? I found a bottle of candy in the bathroom drawer at home. Today, I'm gonna eat some. I don't think people usually keep candy in the bathroom. Is it safe for Puppy to eat something without asking?
No.
No. The rule is always ask first. What's the rule?
Always ask first.
Recognize. Does this break a touching rule? Yes. Does this break the never keep secrets rule?
Yes.
Yes. Refuse. Say words that mean no. What could we say? I'm going to call on a few students to practice.
No, I do not like that. Can you please stop?
Thank you, Ava.
I don't like you touching me.
Okay. This time I want you to do it again, but stronger, loud voice, okay? Okay.
No, I do not want you touching me.
Great. If you saw something that you agreed with, clap 2 times. Great.
Thank you for watching that. Again, you can find these videos online on our website or on our YouTube channels. So like any other program initiatives in your schools, it's important that families understand what their children are learning, especially with a subject like child abuse or neglect. So we have family resources included with the Child Protection Unit. There are family letters for each grade that you can send home at the beginning of the year that explains what is the Child Protection Unit about and what is your child or children learning. There are home links that you can send home, email home, print it out, send it home to the family members to reinforce the skills, not just in the classroom, but also at home, outside the classroom. There are also demonstration videos online for families on how to talk about this topic with their child. And there's a lot of resources on secondstep.org in the families section that'll talk about different ways to reduce anxiety on talking about this subject, different facts, statistics around child abuse or neglect. Outside of the program itself, we also have a website to help parents and caregivers talk to their kids about abuse, earlyopenoften.org. It's a free resource for families. Schools can put this link on their websites and newsletters, share with the PTA, or use it at a family event. We also have another free resource for families and the community at large, Hot Chocolate Talk. We like the hot chocolate talk because it feels warm. It creates this comfortable, warm state for your child when you're talking to them about this topic. And on this hot chocolate talk page, you'll find tips and short videos on conversation guides for parents or guardians, conversations with age-appropriate content and rules, and what to do if your child discloses to you. And Jordan, you've mentioned you've used this resource with your daughter, right?
I have. So raise your hand if you have a kid. I'm kidding, I can't see you, but I'm sure some of you raised your hand. So I have a 4-year-old daughter, and look, I do this for a living, and of course I've had the conversation with Hazel multiple times, like, what are your body parts called? Where are your private body parts? You're in charge of your own body. And then I sat down and had the hot chocolate talk for her, and it became, abundantly clear that I needed to keep having this conversation because I was sort of astounded she didn't get everything right, even though we'd had multiple conversations. So the hot chocolate talk is great because it's like easy, it's comfortable. My kid actually doesn't like hot chocolate, so we sat down with something else that was sweet. And it's just a nice way around the table to reinforce these rules in a casual, comfortable way.
Thank you. So some of you may already doing this, but the Child Protection Unit, you can view as a toolkit for your school staff and your students. You're teaching safety skills to the students. You're creating a common language throughout your building to avoid confusion. It's to create consistency from classroom to classroom, especially with a subject like this. And ultimately, you're creating a safe, welcoming, and supportive learning environment for all students in your school. As we finish our time together, I'm to show you one last video from the program itself. It's a preview of a video used in grades 1 through 3 at the end of the program, and it's called David Speaks Up.
I wish I could report something. David, we're your friends. What's wrong?
Hey, buddy, cheer up. Uncle Terry's taking you to the Eagles game tonight, remember?
Yeah. I don't like playing with Marcus and Ryan. They're always pushing and tripping people, and I don't like it. Sometimes they play a little bit too rough.
Remember, this is our secret.
It's just a homework problem. It makes me kind of mad that he won't stop, even when we tell him to.
I'm your favorite uncle, aren't I?
The way you touch me is wrong. If something is unsafe, you have to report it. Don't keep it a secret.
You know that I'm here to listen if you ever want to talk about anything.
What if they get mad? What if they don't believe me? He's my uncle. He's a grown-up. I think we should get help by reporting it to a grown-up. There is something I need to talk about. Sorry, Mrs. Sansa. That's really nice, but we have to ask our parents first.
I understand.
He said he was proud of me for telling them. See ya!
Remember, you're playing today.
Yep.
Thank you for watching that. Our staff of client relation professionals are here to support you as well. So if you have questions after our web presentation, here's our contact information. You can call us, email us, or visit secondstep.org to learn more. Please feel free to stay on with us if you have time and would like to ask questions. There's a comment box to the right. If not, thank you very much for joining us today and taking time out of your day to learn more about Erins Law and the Child Protection Unit. Now, Jordan, let's answer some of the questions from the audience.
Sure. So let's see. I'm looking in the chat box here. One of the questions is, what else beyond Erins Law is part of this? Yeah, it's part of this process. So what's missing from Erins Law? So Erin has, a universal and holistic model, but there's a lot more that needs to go into child protection beyond what that model provides. One of the things she doesn't include regularity in training. How often do you need a refresher on this? A lot of states talk about this with respect to mandated reporters on recognizing and reporting incidents of child abuse, but they don't necessarily talk about prevention. More attention needs to be paid to that. We are perennially short-funded in education, and child protection is no exception to that, so we need to increase funding to support child protection in schools. And beyond schools, we have to support community efforts when an incident occurs or to prevent an incident from occurring. Look, in my view, this is an all-hands-on-deck endeavor. We need the town hall, the church, youth-serving organizations, the public library, you name it. Every place a young person spends time is an opportunity to build prevention and nurture safety. There's another one. There's an interest in training for admin about creating policies and procedures. How can I access that?
That's a great question. So in our Child Protection Unit, there is training for admins. It's the first module I mentioned earlier, and it's with the purchase of the Child Protection Unit. We believe that with staff training, educator training, along with student lessons, you create a more holistic support around child safety and protection.
Here's another one. Is there a curriculum for 6th through 8th grades, and is it necessary to teach all the lessons at all of the grades?
A great question. So our child protection unit is available for early learning through grade 5. We do not currently have a program for 6th grade through 12th grade. And one of the reasons is because when you enter 6th grade, 7th grade, the age there, kids start dating and the topic becomes more complex. It becomes more about consent and sexual education. The child protection unit is a safety program.
Yeah, and as these kids change, you have to think very differently. While the concepts are the same, how they're presented really does change. Like Lisa said, it's safety in the lower grades, but when a child enters adolescence and starts having sexual experiences, that needs to be a very different conversation.
That's a great question. And is it necessary to teach all the lessons? Yes, we recommend that you teach all the lessons. There are 6 lessons, and they're about 20 to 35 minutes, depending on the age level. But it's important. There's a reason why we teach ways to stay safe, different rules, and clear guidelines for students to ensure that they learn all the tools and safety skills.
Yeah, here's another one. It's who do I contact to ensure that our district is in compliance with the law? Well, because the law varies per state, my recommendation would be for you to speak to the state level authority responsible for implementing or working with districts and schools for that particular version of the law. On top of that, the district itself often will have a policy speaking to the law, and you can check on that. And to the extent we can help, just shoot me a note. We have, I'm an attorney, and we have other attorneys on staff who can help research. We can't be your attorney, but we can certainly share with you our understanding of the law in your jurisdiction.
Yes, please do visit our website, Committee for Children or Second Step, to learn more. There are different resources and statistics around child protection. And the webinar is being recorded and will be shared after our time together. And the slides will also be shared along with the Child Protection Unit alignment chart with the Erins Law.
Yes, so to the question of whether we can provide video links, yes, that'll be in the recording that we share out, and we'll have links via, I think it's on YouTube is where a lot of those videos are located.
Yeah. Yes. Again, thank you so much for joining us today to learn more about Erins Law and the Child Protection Unit. Please feel free to contact us at any time. All right, enjoy the rest of your day.